Before I was 19, my body had already experienced things it was never meant to carry. And the truth is, you don't just forget those moments like that. You learn how to live around them because the body does keep score. It started when I was in the womb of my mother, not just in early childhood, in the way that most people think that early childhood trauma begins. It started with what I was exposed to. My mom, her stress when I was in her womb, then the way my parents talked to each other, then the way they talked to me, the way that they treated each other, and the way that they treated me and my brother, what I was subjected to, and what no one was protecting me from. And that is the early childhood stuff that kids carry. Even though they can't say anything when they're little, they're taking in when no one's protecting them. They're taking in the information, the tone, the neglect, feeling like they're the cause of the problems between their parents. And what happened to me as a little girl happens to 1 in 3 of us women. And most of us never talk about it. And what I'm about to share with you is just a trigger warning. If you're sitting there watching with your kids, this is a topic that is full transparency, talks about abuse. Because I was molested as a child by someone very close to me. And I was exposed to pornography at a very young age in my father's home. And I grew up without a father present to protect me, without anyone teaching me my worth, in a home where I learned very early to stay quiet, to not have needs, to not risk losing the little love that was available at the time, because I was raised by a single mother who had no support. So the stress that she was experiencing when I was a little girl escalated every year because she was single at a time where it wasn't accepted, and to be divorced wasn't accepted. So it was a really unfortunate situation as a kid, and we were very poor and didn't have a lot of support. So by the time I got older, I did not know how to recognize what was safe. I only knew what felt familiar, and chaos felt familiar for me. And then I got into my first serious relationship, and that was at high school, and I believed it mattered. I believed it meant something. Because when you grow up without being chosen, without being protected, without being shown what it means to be valued, being chosen feels like everything to you. And sadly, I gave him my virginity, and I was 17 years old. And weeks later, I left for college. And within the first few weeks or month of school, when I was away, I found out that he had been cheating on me with someone that I knew. And that was my first introduction to what love looked like in practice. And it's why I wrote my program, Raising Her Worth, the ebook, why I've done a couple of videos on my channel, why I've talked about healing the father wound, healing the mother wound, healing the inner child things, and why I wrote and created a course, Redeeming Your Love, Safe and Sacred Dating, because of my own experiences. And I want to help, even if it's just one woman, not make the same mistakes that I did, and one girl not make the same mistakes that I did. I can't imagine not talking to my daughters about this topic, but I wanted to talk about it with all of you after what I shared on Monday, and what I'm going to talk about next Monday as well. Let me get back to my freshman year. I was at a party and I didn't want to walk home alone. So I asked 2 male friends to walk me home, people I trusted, people I thought were safe. And they left me in the street half naked, screaming. One went ahead while the other one did what he planned to do. And the people who lived nearby, the people who heard me, closed their curtains. They heard my screams and they closed their curtains. And I walked blocks to where I worked because I did not know where else to go. And when I walked through the door, my boss saw me and ran to cover me before my coworkers and my peers could keep staring. And that is how my freshman year at college ended. And this is the part that most people never talk about, not just what happened, but what it does to you, because something changes after that. Um, what we need to understand is that trauma is not the thing that was done to you. It's how your body and how you perceive yourself afterwards. It's the way you see yourself. It's the way that you see your body. It's the way that you understand trust, connection, love, and everything becomes confused because your body has now experienced layer upon layer things it was never designed to process alone, from being molested as a child, being raped, having my first sexual experience with someone who not just didn't care about me, but, went and made me feel like I was worth nothing. And after I was raped, I was very alone because in 1986, it wasn't the thing to do to run to the police. It wasn't the thing to do to run to campus police or anybody else, because you were not the victim. You were to blame. And I didn't feel safe to tell my parents. I couldn't talk to them. I wasn't close to them. So I put myself into therapy. I actually worked a full-time job and put myself into therapy. And therapy kept me disassociated. It kept me shut down. It kept me in my head and out of my body, which meant I never actually released what I was carrying. I just learned to talk around it. So I did what most of us do. I kept going. I moved forward. I tried to live my life. But inside, something was absolutely fractured. And I didn't know how to separate being wanted from being used. And I didn't know how to separate attention from harm. And I didn't know how to separate what felt familiar from what was actually safe. And because familiar and safe had never been the same thing for me, not since childhood. And that does not just affect one moment, it shapes everything that comes after it. So it affected my first marriage, that was loveless and ended by the time my first daughter was 1. And it ended up in a 20-year marriage that was abusive. Every relationship, every choice, every time you find yourself somewhere you never meant to be, wondering how you got there again, is from how you learned what was familiar. And chaos for me, and neglect, rejection, second guessing myself, insecurity was what was familiar. Because when your body has been through what mine had been through, starting in childhood and compounding from there, it doesn't simply go back to how it was before. It adapts and it learns how to protect you. It learns how to survive. Even if that means you keep stepping into situations that feel the same, because at least it's familiar. At least they're known. At least your body understands the rules of that particular kind of pain. And so the relationships that followed carried more of the same: more harm, more heartache, more of my worth being taken, my identity trashed, me not knowing how to stop it because no one had ever shown me what it looked like to be fully protected. And I know I am not the only woman who has lived through this. Why? Because 1 in 3 of us have gone through something like this. But most of us never had a place to actually release what it did to us. Not just talk about it, but release it. And that didn't happen until after my 20-year abusive marriage ended. And I spent the last 4 years since then, step by step, methodically healing and doing the work that needs to be done. And I'll be doing it for a long time, because it doesn't just go away after 54 years, because now I'm 58. It doesn't just go away after 54 years of living in a constant state of fight or flight. So we carry it in our bodies, in our thoughts, in our relationships. And then we wonder why we struggle, why we question ourselves. Why do we not feel safe? Why peace feels like something that belongs to other women and not to us. And this is why, not because something is wrong with any of us, but because our bodies are still holding what they were never given the space to heal. And this is where it changes, not by staying in the pain, not by pretending it didn't affect any of us, but by saying no more. No more carrying this like it belongs to me. No more living my life from what was done to me. No more therapy that keeps me talking in circles while my body stays frozen in the same place. And that's for you too. Because God did not create you to live defined by what happened to you. He created you to be whole. But wholeness requires facing what is still there and allowing it to be healed, not managed, not suppressed, not discussed until you are numb to it. healed. And that kind of healing is not about going back into the pain. It is about finally giving your body permission to come out of survival mode it has been living in since you were a child. So if you have lived through this, something like this, whether it started in early childhood, in your first relationship, at a moment you trusted the wrong people, or in all the layered on top of each other, the way mine was, I need you to hear this clearly. You're not broken, but something in you has been carrying what it was never meant to carry alone. And that does not resolve on its own. It does not fade with time. It does not talk itself away. It changes when you finally have a place to release it and someone who understands how to walk you through it with you. And that is the work that we do inside the Inner Healing Journey method, because this is not something you think your way out of. This is not something another round of traditional therapy that keeps you in your head is ever going to fix. This is something you walk through with the right support and you come out whole on the other side. If something in you feels seen right now, do not ignore that. That is not coincidence. That is where you begin. And the link is right here in the description. I want to say something to you. It took me 8 years of someone talking truth into me. It took me the last 4 years of my own journey, my own work with God and with myself. And my journey is not over, like I said. This isn't a once and done. This is a lifetime. God redeems us. That's once and done. And then he keeps redeeming what we give him, what we allow ourselves to feel and experience. And he keeps redeeming what hurt us, because he never intended us to walk through life with that. He said, though you'll have trials, I'll be with you. And he doesn't want us to ever get stuck in our pain. He wants us to rewire and renew our thoughts. Why? Because he doesn't want any thought to ever be exalted above what he can do for us or how he feels about us. And even though I went through over 150 traumatic experiences before I was 19, I'm not a victim. I was for years because I didn't understand abuse, trauma, early childhood neglect. I didn't understand abandonment issues. I didn't understand rejection. I didn't understand all those things. And it wasn't until I literally submitted myself truly to Christ, to God, to the truth, that I could begin to heal, so that I could be able to allow God to use my pain for purpose, like I am right now. And we live in a world that holds us. It's not safe for women like it used to be. And I'm going to talk more about that in my video on Monday. So I hope you stick around for that. And if you know another woman who has been carrying something like this in silence, would you send this to her? She needs to know she's not the only one. And she needs to know there is a way through and a way out. And that healing can be hers. Peace can be hers. I'm living proof of it. So subscribe for more conversations like this. God bless your healing, and I will see you in the next video. Make sure you watch this Monday's video and next Monday's video. I think they're really going to help you understand the levels of healing that needs to take place. Again, thanks for being here. God bless you.